not being funny, let me be somebody else, or let me be one of these politicians' sons or something. I probably wouldn't even, I'd have a slap on the wrist and some probation. But because I'm a black man with tattoos on my face, with a following, and I talk about stuff that's probably frowned upon, or I hang in a group of people that's probably frowned upon, of course they gonna nail me to the cross. Oh yeah, he's a drug dealer. No, I'm not. I used the tools that I had that was put in front of me to make lemonade. All I had was lemons.
Yeah. Big OG.
28-year-old Cameron Morton, also known as OG Cam, is native to Cincinnati, Ohio. I was introduced to Cameron a few months ago through his music. He's a rap artist. For me, hearing the true message in some rap is lost because language can be distracting. But in this untitled piece, I heard Cameron's unapologetic insight into his roots, his community, his relationships, racial and stereotypical tension, inequality, survival, and peace of mind. He points out that we're all the same, all valid, all require the same basics, all have something to give and something to understand from each other. Random Truth presents OG Cam. Cameron Morton, thanks for coming out. Yeah, of course. We're going to start off and get into this by talking about your home base.
I'm the youngest out of four on my mom's side. On my dad's side, he got a bunch of kids. I have one younger brother as far as all my siblings go, but I grew up with my two brothers and my sister on my mom's side. I wasn't like one of the athletes or nothing like that. I was just a little nerdy little kid. Just like science and cartoons and stuff like that. I was real sick. I can remember like my first surgery, I was real young. I wasn't even preschool yet. I had hernia surgery. And from then I was real sick. The time I had to be in a wheelchair. When I was 12, I was doing round arches and I had to have a real major surgery. And as far as I had a pretty normal childhood, I was exposed to a lot just growing up in Avondale. Born and raised in the Pasadena. I took my first steps in the Pasadena hallway, so that building real impactful to my life. So I was exposed to a lot. My mom did her best to keep me a yes sir, no sir, yes ma'am, no ma'am type of guy. And I still am, but your environment, it affects you.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
Once I got up and got out and started just going outside and getting into more stuff, typical boy stuff, fighting, little hustles here to get money. It just molds you into a different type of individual.
Right.
You're going to be your mother's baby for so long.
Really? I think mamas think their babies are babies forever.
Yeah. Yeah.
So let's go back a little bit now. The surgery on both feet? So how long were you in a wheelchair?
It was supposed to be 6 months, but it ended up being 9 months. Because I had my cast, it went all the way up here.
Okay.
So I'm in the wheelchair, and I'm like, okay, how am I going to use the restroom? So they try to get me to use the restroom in the cup at first, and I'm like, nah, this is not going to work. So what I would do in the Pasadena, you got 2 restrooms, depending on how big your apartment is. So it's 2 restrooms. You got the little one, they got like the bath and the shower and stuff like that. I mean, that's the big one, sorry. And you got the little one that just got a sink and a toilet. So what I used to do is I park my wheelchair in front of the little one and get up on the door handles and just swing myself to the toilet. But then after a while, probably like 5 months in, I started getting my strength back. Like, and I stood up straight by accident, and I messed my feet up like I broke out of the cast.
Mm.
And messed my feet up. So they had to go back in. They had to give me these shorter casts this time, and the surgery was unsuccessful. So I was in a wheelchair for a long time. It was like 6 months.
Okay.
I missed the whole school year almost.
I was going to ask about school. So you missed school?
Yeah, I missed the whole school year. And I started getting exposed to a lot because you ain't going to school. You staying up at night.
Mm-hmm.
You staying up at night. I'm watching TV. And now I'm watching stuff I wouldn't necessarily be watching like during the daytime, but like my mom was right there.
Right.
So I got exposed to the real world per se at a young age.
Mm-hmm.
Real young age. Because I was 12. Like, back then at the time, a 12-year-old wasn't really like worried about living or dying or like sex and stuff like that.
Right.
You know, this is back then, so I was exposed to a whole lot at a young age.
Okay. So you mentioned like fighting and hustling and all that. Like describe that a little bit. I don't think.
It ain't really start off like illegal hustling. Like we used to do just little stuff like go to the gas station and let me pump your gas for $1.
Yeah.
You save up a couple of dollars and you buy a pack of incense and
Right.
you sell incense.
Right.
And basically, like, it go from that to actually like getting into the illegal stuff. That's just over time because you see the other guys doing like them was the influencers. We had
Yeah.
the dope boys.
Right.
Like, them was the ones who influenced. Like I want a car like that. I want to dress nice
Right.
like that.
Right.
And the money that my mama bringing home might not necessarily be able to get me Jordans or Air Force Ones every week and stuff like that.
Right.
Or, you know, you gotta hustle coming from that place because if not, you just gonna be struggling.
Right.
It was a whole lot of struggle. Yeah, it was crazy because times changed. When I finally did get into the streets, it was just so dangerous for such a small reward. Like we standing outside all day with a little quarter of weed or a little half of some weed, just hoping that the police don't just come to arrest us and just put you in the system. But all you doing is trying to eat.
Right.
You wasn't knocking people over their heads. Like I ain't ever been a robbery boy or nothing like that.
Yeah.
So we wasn't doing nothing really bad. We was just trying to survive.
Mm-hmm.
And it was hard.
Mm-hmm.
It was hard just trying to live a certain lifestyle. And you
Right.
don't have no qualifications.
Right.
So it's like you can't just up and get a job. You didn't have a lot of privilege that a lot of my friends had. I didn't.
Mm-hmm.
And it used to blow my mind because a lot of my friends that were privileged, they used to want the lifestyle that I was so desperate to get out of.
Right.
Like, it's different. Like, when you just don't feel safe going home at night, like, you can just be out with me all day, then at the end of the day, you get on this bus and going home, your family, you good. I'm going upstairs. My problems might follow me upstairs. So
Right.
it was crazy. It was a whole lot of tension growing up, but we made the best of it.
Mm-hmm.
We definitely did. As far as, like, the fighting and stuff, that just came from territory.
Right.
Like, it's only so much that you can do in one area, so if you from down here and you come in my area, taking the food out of our mouth, we got to do something about it.
Right.
So
Right.
it's more so a territory thing.
So when you used the word privilege just a minute ago, what do you mean when you say that?
When I say privilege, I don't mean like at an advantage, but it's more so of, okay, I grew up in a single parent household
Mm-hmm.
with 3 other siblings. Like my mom had a decent job, but she was kind of sickly too, so she couldn't really like work as hard as the average 2-parent household.
Right.
And like make sure we in a good school or make sure like, okay, every month he getting some shoes or something like that. 'Cause there's been times I done went 2-3 months and wore the same pair of shoes versus these kids. They got a mom and a dad, they both working, bringing a stable household. I mean, a stable income in the household. Like, you got access to more stuff.
Mm-hmm.
You safer. You might not be in a horrible neighborhood where it's bullets flying through the window. You live in a nice neighborhood, in a house. Like, I'm in an apartment. Like, sometimes our heat going out. We got to put plastic on all of the windows in the house in the wintertime. You can't look outside because there's plastic on all the
Right.
windows because your heat going out.
Right.
We warming up with the stove in the morning. Like, we ain't got central heat and central air.
Right.
So it was different. It was
Right.
totally different.
Right. Yeah, survival means different things to different people depending on where you come from.
Exactly. Like I didn't have a silver spoon at all. Like even being the youngest, people always say the youngest get babied. Like if anything, me being the youngest, it just allowed me to get away with more because my mom had seen all of this before. Like none of my brothers could ever smoke in the house. But by then, you got these two boys, you know, went through that. I'm the youngest. Go ahead, just like an innocent.
Yeah. Moms get tired by the time the last one comes. It's like, whatever, go ahead.
I remember my mom that found my gun, and she was just super upset. Like she was ready to put me out, but it was like, I understand. If I was in your position, I'd have a gun too. I hope you're not walking around with this. Hopefully it's just like in my house for protection, but at that point it's like, man, she got two grown boys. My brothers done been through it all. Like probably just as much as I have. So it was more so of an understanding thing, but we were still at a disadvantage. We were still in the hood.
So was a gun necessary?
Me growing up, yeah, having a gun was necessary. Like I said, it went from shootouts to fistfights. Because you get older, you start dealing with money you never dealt before. Like, you're not about to just be out here just fighting people. You hustling already and you keeping your head on the swivel. You got a problem with a person. Like, either they gonna try to shoot you, rob you, anything. So you can't punch a bullet.
Right.
And so that was necessary for protection growing up where I was from. I know people see me and see this persona and like, oh yeah, Cam, just shoot them up, bang, bang. But I grew up in Afghanistan. So it's like, that's the norm for me, for real.
Right.
I don't try to glorify it at all, but that's how we grew up.
So how old were you when you moved out your mom's place?
The first time I was 18. And then my mom moved. When she moved out of the Pasadena, I had to be like a freshly 18, 19. Yeah, she moved. I was staying, me and one of my girlfriends had a place. It ain't work out, so I ended up going back to my mom's for a while.
Okay.
Yeah, but my father, he had a real nice house. He had a 2-family house. And I needed privacy. I wanted to do my own thing. Like, I'm grown now. And I'm doing a whole lot of stuff. Like I had a lot of stuff going on at a young age. So I moved in with my father around like, what was I? Like 20.
Okay.
I moved back in with my mom when I was like 19. Moved with my father when I was 20. I was there for a few years. Then I got the mother of my child pregnant. And once we had the baby, we moved out and got our own apartment.
What would you say the most important lesson was that you learned from your mom's, just her rearing, teaching her children, growing up? What was your most important lesson from her?
I mean, at first I would say it would be, don't really feel bad about nothing because everything happened for a reason. But in retrospect, when I really look at it, it's just like respect. Having respect for others, having respect for yourself, having respect for the stuff that you have to work for. Like, she was just big on respect. I think that was one of my biggest lessons I probably would have taken from her. Like, you have to give respect to get it, and respect is important. You can have all the money in the world. If nobody respects you, somebody come take it. And so respect is like one of the biggest things she instilled in me.
Now, what about your dad? Same question regarding him.
I always have a hustle, man. I always have a way to find a way to keep some income coming in. Whether it's right, wrong, up or down. I always stay on your hustle.
Yeah.
Because even now, my dad's 60, he's still out here hustling.
So was that more like a survival thing that he taught you? Like
Yeah, it was a survival technique. I ain't gonna never forget, I needed $30 for something. I was like 15 years old. And my mama just totally didn't have it. She already had put up half the money that I needed in the first place. But I needed an extra 30. And I didn't want to ask nobody for it. I could have just made it on my own, really, but it was more so, let me see if I asked my dad for something, would he look out for me? I can't make it up. He pulled up on me on the late night. Talked my head off about nothing the whole time. Like, he just like really pussyfooted around the conversation after I already told him I needed $30. Then right before he left, He shook my hand with 3 little bags of weed and was like, you know what to do. Drove off. I mean, but you know, you only get one.
You
so I
only
had
do.
nothing bad to say about him. He's just him.
Yeah.
I know my father loves me. He just has weird ways of showing his love to all
Okay.
of us.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I don't have nothing negative to say about him. He helped make me. He put
Yeah.
50%.
He's your dad.
One of the coolest people I know.
Okay. So how's your relationship with him today?
It could be better. I mean, I'm real distant with family anyway because I'm always working so hard. Like, I love all my family, but I don't really communicate much with my dad.
Okay.
Like, I got his number, but I don't really just up and just call him.
Mm-hmm.
Like, but I don't want to call him when stuff is wrong and make it seem like I'm only calling him when it's tragedy or stuff like
Right.
that. So, but it could be better, but it's not bad.
Mm-hmm. Not bad, but could be better. You want it to be better.
I mean, I can give or take, honestly.
Oh, okay.
It's really up to him whether he want a relationship with his kids. Like right now, I'm not at that like stage.
Mm-hmm.
I'm so tunnel vision. Like if it ain't no problem, it ain't nothing that can get fixed.
Okay. All right. So let's switch gears a little bit and talk about your music. Just talk about it a little bit. Like, when did you get started? Who influenced you?
I used to ain't even like music. Like it was certain songs I liked, but when I did get into it, I used to take like the lyrics. Like I go to the library down the street from where I live, and I get on the internet and get the lyrics to songs. And I take them, and I just replace them with stuff that I say.
Okay.
And then I let one of my brothers hear one time. He was like, "Man, you rapping? It's rap. That's what we do." Because my brother was a rapper, hell of a rapper, amazing rapper. He just didn't have the tools to necessarily get to the level that I got to.
What do you mean by that?
Like he had access to studios and stuff like that, but it wasn't really like the connection. That, okay, I'll make a good song, but it's not gonna get past like the hood hearing it or like our family. You really ain't had the tools and connection to get it in people's hands.
Okay.
And then at the time, before, because he went to prison for like 4 years, at the time the internet being viral and stuff like that, it was non-existent.
Mm-hmm.
So it was no way to get his music really out there. And then once he was in prison, like 3 years into his 4-year sentence, we start getting stuff like MySpace,
Yeah.
stuff like Urban Chat, stuff where you can upload your music and potentially hear it around the world, stuff like YouTube. All that stuff came when he was in prison.
Right.
Before, he really didn't have access to that stuff. You had to really know somebody that knew somebody that knew somebody.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I put a song out when I was about 15, but I was with a rap group. Our name was HBL, Homeboys for Life. I ain't gonna ever forget the first little rap group I was in. I didn't want to be a rapper, but my cousin was like, "Man, you gotta get on with us. We getting girls, we getting parties for free, we doing these shows." Because they knew a dude who had some money. He was just trying to promote us and just take us to the next level. It really ain't work. Like, you know how that story goes almost all the time. So I put a song out. We had all did the song together at first, but they ain't like it. So I'm like, all right, I'll do it by myself. And I just put it out, put it on my MySpace. And it went crazy. And I got booked for a party. And this is when I started taking it serious. Because I had a video phone. This when video phones was new too. I got booked for the party and I performed. And I put the mic down for a second. And the whole party was singing my lyrics. And when I sang the video, like I watched the video a whole bunch of times, just over and over, like, dang, like that's control. I got the whole room just saying my words back to me. I love that feeling, like I love that energy.
Mm-hmm.
So from then I just pursued a career, just releasing songs here and there, not really like serious. Got kicked out of high school. I got kicked out of high school. My mama gave me the ultimatum, like, you gonna work, gonna get your GED and go to college. Like, it's one of the two. I started hustling. I was looking for little jobs here and there, but I was hustling. As long as I was having money, not really asking for nothing, like, it was cool. Like I said, I was the baby.
Mm-hmm.
And around the time I was 18, this dude came home. His name was Dub Santura. He had just came home from prison and he was rapping. He was like, "Yeah, we got the studio down the street." Went down the street to their studio. I started working with them every day. like every day, just making music, honing my craft, getting better, actually learning how to make a song. And the main dude who owned it, he showed me how to get an LLC and start a label.
Oh.
He really was just high capping just to show you how easy it was. Like, man, ain't nothing but $150. Like, I get a card, EIN number, everything. So me and my friends took the same form. The only difference is, ain't none of us older than 19 years old. So we founded a label called True to Nero Records. Then from there we founded another label called Incredible Records. After we formed Incredible Records, that's when I really got serious, like buckled down, like took myself 100% serious as an artist. Very competitive, just always trying to get better, always going to different artist developments. Like I did artist development with Young X at a young age. I did artist development with High Tech for a very long time. Like I molded myself into, in my eyes, one of the most complete rappers. So that's all I wanted to be, just better. And then as I was getting better, music, like the quality of music was just dropping. So
Okay.
you giving better quality, and like the standard is just lowering. Like nowadays, people don't even say stuff; they just mumble it.
Yeah.
So what's the normal to me stands out, and that just propelled my popularity. People like, oh yeah, he could actually rap, because I don't rap to fit in. Like I actually make good music and traditional music, based on my influences and the style that I developed on my own.
Right.
Yeah, so I consider my music like new age gangster rap.
Okay.
And because I'm not talking about necessarily like just hustling, it's not trap rap, but it's not vibe rap, and it always have a message, whether like you said the message is positive or negative.
Right.
It always has a message.
Yeah, it definitely does. The whole rap genre, for a lot of people, just doesn't make sense.
Right.
It's like the verbiage, which would be like, I don't know, slang. And then there's other words that for a lot of people just feels disrespectful.
Right.
And so the message in that just goes deaf for people because they're concentrating on all this other stuff that's going
It's
on.
automatically you associate it with all the negatives, so you really don't get to really hear the stuff with the message.
Right.
Because it's so much trash.
Exactly.
You in the dump, you're not really gonna focus on a couple nice things that you find.
Right.
Because you're surrounded by trash.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's what that's how I see it. But
It's just why it's a lot of artists I don't work with, just because of that. I just keep I'm cool with everybody as far as artists goes in Cincinnati, but there's a lot of people I don't work with just because of the strength of, just because you make a good song don't mean we'll make a good song together.
Exactly.
We're not talking about the same stuff. And it shows.
Right. It definitely shows. And it's it really matters too, because like you said, the people are listening. And there's a lot of just influence that people are making on, young ones, people they don't even know.
When I was growing up, we listened to a lot of Pac, and Pac remind me a whole lot of myself. Like, not necessarily when I was that age, but really like that's crazy. Pac died when he was 25. But he was way beyond his time because he was everywhere with it. He could talk about something violent, then go and talk about changing the world, then talk about having a house party full of females, then turn around and make a song like Keeping Your Head Up, talk about like being positive. So like he was all around the place. But these new artists, they really don't talk about much.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't like to classify myself with them.
Yeah, I can get that. I was introduced to one of your pieces not too long ago. And I listened to that over and over and over again and realized that the foundation of it, the heart of it, was basically universal and basically what we as black people have been dealing with for years. Now I'm going to tell you what I heard. You can tell me if I heard right. I heard you reference your dad And basically the message that I got from that was that he just wasn't really around much. He didn't fit the whole father home unit type of guy. That he was maybe separate, knew who his kids were, maybe interacted with them from time to time, and he was pretty much his own.
Yeah, that's about spot on. And you talking about my one boy. I wish me and my pops would get along. It ain't my pride. He just don't want to leave that shit alone.
Right.
Yeah, and I just wanted to be as raw as possible without being disrespectful.
Yeah.
But just to actually get people to, what is it? Not sympathize, but empathize with. Because I know I'm not the only person that goes through that or feel like
Right.
that. Yeah, and I try not to do that too often in my music because I don't want people to just like automatically just think like, oh, he in pain on the inside because shit, I'm not perfect, but at the same time, like I feel just like everybody else.
Right. Well, to me, it's not even about associating it with you on that level. It came from you. It's your experience. But for me, it's universal. It's like there's so many people that don't have their dad. A lot of people don't even know who their dad is.
Right.
And for those who do, a lot of us just didn't have him. Like day to day, like we might have had our mom. And that happens with moms too. Sometimes they disappear. But speaking of fathers, a lot of us just didn't have him. I might know who he is. He might come around from time to time.
Yeah, I really don't.
Yeah, might make a promise or two that he didn't keep. And then I don't see him again for about a year. And I think that that's more common than we realize. So for you to make that statement in your song or in your rap, I think was show the commonplace.
That's what I was going for. I was trying to be more so open. I had just got out of jail when I did that piece, and it was real personal.
Yeah.
It was real open. I tried to touch like all aspects when I did that. Instead of just rapping about one thing, I tried to go all around
Right.
the board.
Exactly.
I want to be like water when it comes to music. Whatever you put me in, I just want to take that shape and just be a necessity in a sense. So, like I said, I wanted people to feel it, and at the same time, I wanted to exhibit my skills.
Yeah.
Because I work hard like, on little things. I want to make sure everything rhymed right. I want to make sure everything had a smooth transition. I want to make sure I don't harp on just one subject.
Yeah.
I want to say stuff that you can visualize in your head when you hear it, and it actually make you smile and want to hear that part again. Wait, rewind.
Yeah, that's exactly what I did with that.
With that specific piece, like I said, I was allowing myself to be open.
Yeah.
Usually, I ain't gonna say I put up a wall, but I'm pretty put together. I'm pretty like tough. So on that one, I just allowed myself to be more open.
Yeah.
And then still just, like I said, exhibiting my skills and then acknowledging I know I had the skills that I had.
Right.
And so it was just fun.
Yeah.
It was a good exhibition.
Yeah, it was really good, but you really have to, the exhibition, could be perfect with almost anybody, but what you're actually exhibiting makes the difference,
I'm heavy on my lyrics.
Yeah, it's obvious, but the message in it, to me, it just pinpointed so much stuff that came from way back. It's like I could take it way back to a time that there was slavery that our people went through. And during that time, little boys saw their father sold and separated from the family, stripped. You mentioned your father being separate. In slavery times when people were separated from from everyone that they know, put in places with this is this person's master is over there, so they're separated out, and they learn things, or thought they did, about each other separately.
Right.
But if you told that stuff to the wrong person, it might be a problem.
Right.
So that's the snitching part that I heard in your piece. You know, women getting raped by the master because he just felt like he could, you know what I mean? And then you have the mixed blacks separated from
The pure blacks.
right, and pitted against each other. You know what I mean? It's like they're totally at the mercy of their master.
Right.
You know what I mean? They'll get the family watch somebody get lynched, and it was required sometimes. You know, beaten to near death or death. You know what I mean? When you compare that type of existence to now, to present time, there's so much to compare that just totally relates. It's the pitting against our own race.
Right.
You know what I mean? The stripping from our fathers from their home. You know what I mean? By doing whatever it takes. You know, drink this. You know, next thing you know, somebody's an alcoholic, or take this drug. Next thing you know, they're strung out. Right. You know what I mean? It's the same stuff.
Right.
You know what I mean? Prison. You know, why are we packed in these prisons all over?
Modern day slavery.
You know, well, that's what I'm trying to get to. What's the difference? And so that's why your piece stood out to me, because you said all of that in there, and I heard it. And I remember hearing Martin Luther King talk about how jacked up that was. Malcolm X, you heard it in poetry like from Nikki Giovanni, music, Nina Simone, Marvin Gaye. I mean, it's all throughout history.
It's all from great leaders of our time.
Right.
And that's all I'm trying to be. Times has changed.
And some of those leaders we don't even know about. We don't even know. I mean, down to our names, or not even ours, just passed along from this master to that master. We don't even know for real who we are.
Right.
You know,
We
who
are
are
stolen civilization.
Thank you. So that's why I wanted to bring that out to you, because it said so much. And with every generation, there's this like, you know, like civil human rights thing, you know, civil rights that we all speak about in one way or another. You know, you got people who, I don't know, streetwalkers who get together in groups and, you know, hands up type of thing, or Black Lives Matters, because of what we see going on. You know, just somebody just trying to go to the store and get some bread and milk and get stopped, and next thing you know, they shot
They get shot by the police.
You know what I mean? It's like, what is that?
That's a crazy time, man. Sometimes I be upset that I'm even in that generation just because of how radical I am in my thinking. But like I said, music is power. That's all influence.
It is.
And I try to use mine. That's one of the reasons that I do music. I love the power that comes with that. Like I said, music affect people. It affect how people dress, how people talk, how people walk, what drugs people put in their body, what foods they want to eat. You say the right thing in the right song. I remember, what was it? The one year Nicki Minaj said something about Michael Kors. His sales went through the roof that year. Because she mentioned it. like it's be little things, so I like the influence. But it was a point where I could have 100 young boys right now, ready to go to war, do whatever. But now it's like I got the power to make them same 100 want to make 100,000 or make $1 million. And that type of power, it reciprocates back onto you. That's why I say I show love, because what go around come back around. I know if I got good influence, it's gonna pay off.
Right. That's a responsibility. You know what I mean? It's like if you recognize just what it is that you are setting up, that other people are watching and following. It's like, do you really want to do that? Do you want to do that thing, or do you want to do something else where people can follow you in that way? You know what I mean?
Yeah, and that was a big battle. Like once I really peeped the influence and the power that I got, because power can corrupt you. So
Absolutely.
Like, do I want to breed a whole bunch of just killers or a whole horrible generation? Do I want to help make us stick around a little longer? And I think just me not expecting to live as long as I did realistically, it affected my thinking. Like I didn't care, because I was living every day like I wasn't. I might not see tomorrow. So that it shows in your attitude. Like I say, they influenced by it. So I gotta think about it. I got nephews that want to be just like me. And I can't have this type of attitude. Like I don't give a fuck if I wake up tomorrow. I'm living every day like I just found out I got cancer or something. I'm living crazy. I can't have them living like that, but want them to be around. I want my nephews to get older and live life and experience stuff. But they influenced by me. So I gotta set an example.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I think once it got closer to home and I really started seeing the influence that I had, it helped me for the better.
Yeah, I can think back just real recently to my mom and just think about the type of person that she was. You know, the example that she strove to set for us. And then whose shoulders did she stand on, and whose shoulders did that person stand on. And when you go all the way back and just really take a minute to really just actually seek to understand that, you know, about whatever means, go on the internet or whatever, and just check out life way back then. It's like, to me, it's like all of those people suffered. And time progressed. We're still dealing with the same stuff, but how are we acting? How are we living our lives that honors what they went through? You know what I mean? Whose shoulders do you stand on?
I don't know. So I really didn't have influences growing up. It wasn't really nobody I ever wanted to be like. I had my idols in music, but as far as nobody really taught me how to be a man. Nobody really set no good example for me. It wasn't ever nobody that I was around or it was around me when I was growing up. I want to be like him when I grow up. It never was that. That's why it blew my mind that I influenced so many people. Man. So many people just, as you say, stand on man. Because it really was nobody that ever really influenced me. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't want to be that dude who's no, I'm self-made. I had a whole lot of help, growing up, but at the same time, nobody ever really influenced me. Mm-hmm. Me and my brothers, we weren't close to the point where I wanted to be like them. I so happened to make music like my other brother. When we actually started getting in business with each other, we parted ways because I didn't want to do what he wanted me to do. He wanted me to be a backpack rapper, because he knew I can talk about anything. I decided to talk about anything. So I never really was influenced by nobody growing up. I never really had no father figures or nothing.
Right.
It was more so just common sense more than anything. You want to be greater than the generation before you.
Yeah, that's what I mean. It's like every generation moving forward should be better or should be striving to be better. And at the exact same time, things aren't really better for us. I mean, they're better in some ways, like there used to be white-only signs up, drinking fountains or bathrooms or whatever. There used to be a time where black people couldn't go in somewhere, sit down, eat, and be served. They might be able to go in, but they got to take it out.
Right.
There was a time before that when they couldn't even go in. You know what I mean? So in that way, there's progression, but at the same time, there's really not. You know what I mean? When you look at the subtle ways that racism comes out, just very subtle. And sometimes you can't see it, but sometimes it's blatant enough in a subtle way for you to know exactly what that was. You know what I mean? So, the shoulders that we stand on might not necessarily be blood as we know it. It could have been that teacher, it could have been that pastor, it could have been Mr. Joe down the street that always sat outside in front of the storefront. It could have been just your own observance of the things around you, and in those things become your shoulders that you decide, yeah, that's a good thing for me.
I never really had a chance to get that. And I ain't gonna say it bothered me, but I think I probably would have turned out a better person if I did have some type of role model, but it just didn't. Mm-hmm. And it ain't even just for lack thereof, because there was a lot of people around that were positive black role models, I guess, but just not in my life, And what they was doing didn't affect me.
Okay.
Then time just go by, you quit looking for that.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's at a point in time you yearn for that.
Right.
But then when you get older, it's like.
So talk about your child. What, boy or girl?
A boy, 5. His name's Paris.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I try to be there as much as possible. I'm having disagreements with his mom right now, so I haven't seen him in a while. But I was there from day one. I basically pulled him out myself. And like I said, I don't want him to be nothing like me. I don't want him to be a rapper. I don't want him to have to hustle. I don't want him to have to fight. I don't want him to be anything like him.
What would you like to see him become?
Great. Anything that he wants to do. I always said it to my mom, once I have my own children, I'm not going to be one of them one day. It's oh, yep, you got to be boxing. Or I'm putting him on that football field. I'm doing it whatever direction he wants to go in. I'm working to where I can just support that 100%. If he say he want to build a rocket ship, I need to be able to just go ahead and battle metal. That's my mindset. So I'm 100% supportive of anything.
Yeah, that's support. All right, so now I'm gonna throw some words at you, and you just tell me what they mean to you.
Cool. I like that game.
All right, integrity.
Necessary.
Endurance.
OG Cam.
What does that mean?
I think I'm the definition of endurance.
Because?
Everything I done been through, but I still keep this smile on my face.
Yeah.
You would never know. I'm about to go to prison in the next couple weeks. I still walk around happy. I still work hard. I'm still focused. I'm not letting it defeat me. That's it. I'm glad I got endurance. I ain't got insurance.
So, you want to talk about your prison time a little bit? Or do you want me to just go past that?
We can get into it after the words. I like this game.
Okay, let's do the words first. Value.
Value. First thing that come to mind. Money.
Right. Prejudgment.
The story of my life Not mean that. Story of my life.
Coming from where?
Just
In what situations?
always, it's in general. Like when people see me, they just judge instantly before I can even open my mouth. And when I actually get to talking, people learn me. It's like, oh, I misjudged you.
Okay. Okay.
That's
how it usually
common.
goes. Yeah.
It's so common. It's super common.
Struggle.
African Americans.
Yeah. That's self-explanatory. Evolution.
Think of time. Because with time comes evolution.
Survival.
A must.
A must.
Survival is a must. For sure. When I think of survival, I think of where I came from. You gotta stay in survival mode 24/7. There's no relaxing. You either struggling or you surviving. Like on all aspects.
Mm-hmm. So you say no relaxing.
No relaxing. Even if you at a company like this, it's a horrible place. So even if you comfortable in your mind, somebody probably plotting to take it. There's no relaxing. We're always on go. Always. You gotta survive.
The last word is trap.
Every day. Nah. It depends. Like if you mean trap like what we put ourselves in, I think a black man. If you mean trap like hustle, every day.
Okay. Now, before we get to talking about prison, I just want to ask you a couple of other questions. Last two questions. Civil rights. Define that.
I really can't even define civil rights. Being born in the 90s was because like we really don't have that. Our civil rights is violated like constantly.
How so?
Police running your house with no warrant. They stop you on the street with no reason to stop you. Like it's horrible. They go through all your stuff. You can your phone's hacked, your phone's tapped into. Civil rights is damn near non-existent for my generation. I'm from the generation where the police kill all the kids. So yeah, it's really more so of a civil war than like civil rights existing.
Okay.
I never really thought much about that. Like I'm familiar with the whole civil rights movement and stuff like that, but like I said, my generation, we ain't had no civil rights. We get our civil rights violated constantly. This is the biggest tool we got right here. In the court of law, when your civil rights get violated, this is the only thing we got for proof. And half the time, this don't even work. They still violating your civil rights and shipping you off.
Okay, now, the whole fingerprint thing. We all got them. And the thing that blew my mind when I was little was when my mom told me that everybody has different fingerprints, like everybody in the whole world.
Yeah, none of them the same.
Before, present, whoever's coming after, none of them the same. It makes us so unique. Just such individuals that we're really not anybody else. You know, we might blend, but nobody's like you. Nobody's like me. So, your fingerprint, if you to just stamp it on something, what would you want it to say about you once you transition, once you're gone? if somebody just dug up this card with your fingerprint on it and could somehow take a look at who that fingerprint belonged to, what would you want them to see?
I was just a providing person, a caretaking person that loved what I did, loved accomplishing goals, taking care of my people. And I did whatever for them, and I did whatever it was to accomplish the goal. And I was driven. And you know that I was driven, I was a go-getter. And I ain't play about my people.
Okay. All right, so now let's talk about prison upcoming.
That's gonna be real boring. I caught a case. I caught a trafficking case. I caught at the airport allegedly with some marijuana. It was a decent amount. So I ended up getting some time. They offered me about like 3 to 5 in a federal penitentiary. So instead of just like trying to fight it in court and getting maxed out and doing about 10 years, just buckle down. I don't have no priors. I ain't ever been in prison before. I don't plan on going after, you know. So yeah, I made a mistake, and I don't necessarily even feel like I made a mistake. I was just trying to provide, trying to do what I had to do to get to the next level. I don't have qualifications. I ain't graduated from high school. Technically, I didn't even make it out to 9th grade, if you really want to look on paper. So I didn't have a lot of options. And growing up where I'm from, you ever heard the term, you can make it here? I know you have. You can make it here, you can make it anywhere. So the skills that I learned here, I took them elsewhere to survive. And unfortunately, I broke a few laws across a couple state lines. And it is what it is.
So that's where you are.
And I stand on my own too. Like you can't, I always say this to like my nephews, my younger siblings. You can't smack a dog on the head. A vicious dog. You can't keep smacking it on the head, then be like, when it finally bites you. You gotta know you're gonna get bit, so you're gonna get that alcohol peroxide, or is you gonna cry and be surprised that this dog done bit you. You know, I was just playing around with dogs for a long time. I was in a dangerous position. It could have been way worse. Like, not even necessarily in that situation, just period.
Yeah.
Things that I've done to provide that I'm not more so proud of, but in my eyes it was necessary. Like I said, I don't feel bad. I don't feel no way. I don't feel regretful. Like, if I had to go back in the time machine, I probably just wouldn't be greedy. I probably wouldn't have came back, but I was trying to provide. I don't feel like I was hurting nobody. I wasn't doing nothing that can kill anybody. You know, so, I mean, the law might disagree with what I did, but like I said, I go back to civil rights.
Right, exactly.
Not being funny, let me be somebody else, or let me be one of these politicians' sons or something. I probably wouldn't even, I'd have a slap on the wrist and some probation.
Mm-hmm.
But because I'm a black man with tattoos on my face, with a following, and I talk about stuff that's probably frowned upon, or I hang in a group of people that's probably frowned upon, of course they're gonna nail me to the cross. Oh yeah, he's a drug dealer. No, I'm not. I used the tools that I had that was put in front of me to make lemonade. All I had was lemons.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And like I said, I wasn't knocking people over their head or doing nothing like that.
Mm-hmm.
I was doing the same thing they were doing. The only difference between what I was doing is they call them dispensaries.
Absolutely.
So, like I said, I don't feel bad. It's just the circumstances.
Yeah.
And I promise that I'm not going to let that facility make me a worse person. It's not going to make me a worse criminal. Like I said, I don't have to go to the rehabilitation system to get rehab. I know what I was doing was wrong. But I was just providing.
Right.
I'm in a position where I don't have to do that no more.
Yeah, you when you're speaking about that, it reminds me of a time that I was actually a facilitator for teenage boys who were court ordered to this program versus going to like juvie hall.
Right.
So it was like, I want to say like a 6-week program where they just came and just talked. And most of those guys were black, and they pretty much talked about stealing because mama was on crack and she'd been gone for 3 weeks, and baby sister and brother were hungry, so they went and did what they needed to do.
Because ain't that how it really started? If you get put in a position, like you said, most black families don't have a father. So you get put in a position to where you got to take care of not even just yourself. Sometimes you got to take care of the whole house.
Right.
You got to be the man in the house.
Right.
But you ain't getting no job. And if you is getting a job, it ain't paying more than that, $10 an hour. And if you underage, it's like you getting paid under the table because you ain't supposed to work.
Right.
Your first impulse is, okay, I have to do something, I have to trade something, I have to sell something. Like, my first impulse when I really started hustling wasn't like, all right, I'm about to go scrape some lines, or I'm about to go shovel some snow. Hell nah, I'm about to go stand outside and shake a hand or two and make a quick transaction. Turn 25 to 100, and 100 to 1,000. Then do it over and over again and just hope the police don't catch me. That's just what it is.
Mm-hmm.
We impulsive
Right.
survivors. I'm not
Right.
thinking like, okay, let me start a business.
Right.
Nah, I'm not thinking to start no
Right.
business.
Right.
It is what it is.
Yeah, it is what it is, and it's like you said, it's like the conditions pretty much tell the story, and the outcome. But then if you do get caught, then the label.
Right. You automatically labeled like, I'm a felon now. I wasn't ever a felon. I ain't had no felonies. I used to walk in the gun store in Vegas and just swipe and walk out. Same day, they ain't got to do no background check, no nothing. It pop up on my ID, no felonies. But then you see me and you automatically just assume I'm a criminal or something like that by my exterior till I start talking. But now that I got into this little trouble, not because I was necessarily doing something besides feeding my family and sponsoring my career, now I get this F on my record and I'm automatically just, oh yeah, what's the word? Stereotype. Oh yeah, he's just a criminal. He's just an ex-con. In my eyes, I don't feel like I'm a convict. I was convicted of doing some stuff, but I'm not institutionalized. I'm not a bad person at all. I was just surviving.
Mm-hmm.
So that's where that prejudgment comes in, and then they add that.
Yeah.
They taint you.
Yeah, and it's a stain that they don't ever want to go away. You know what I mean? And if they do it right, then your head believes it too. You know what I mean?
That's why 80% of the people go back.
Yeah. Because and then when they come out, there's nothing for them to do. You know what I mean? Like they can't do this, they can't do that because they get this thing.
Right, they force you to try to get a job, but it's like you limit the fields that I can get jobs in. Then 9 times out of 10, I get a low-ranking job. All right, well, these jobs will hire you if you got felonies, but at the same time, if it's a younger person with more experience or qualifications, like they can get in a better position than you. I can come home, say if I wasn't gonna do music or I didn't have a hustle hand, I come home, I'd probably have to work at Kroger's or some shit. Then this is probably a little teenager that's got his diploma. I ain't got no diploma or nothing like that. He's the manager. He's 17. When I get out, I'm gonna be 30. Like, but this is like the options that they give you. And then you so used to this lifestyle going this way, I'm about to survive it. That was just pennies. Might as well try my luck. So you put your back against the wall.
Right, exactly. Exactly. All right, the last thing with you is that this is random truth. Random truth means that you tell your story, your truth. But what I'm going to do is have you pick a true. You get 3. You pick.
I'm gonna go with the middle. So what I do is read it out. Once you have no problem making mistakes, admitting them, and correcting them, hardly any mistakes will happen. This is Sadhguru.
Sadhguru.
Sadhguru, okay.
And earlier you just talked about mistakes. I believe in when people pick from the little clay pot out of, several, that they pick the one that's just made just for them.
So I keep it?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it so much.
Oh,
I guess.
wait a minute. You can edit that out. Thank you so much.
Big OG. Man, this shit so historical. She said, I bet you think you cute, ho, I'm adorable. Ain't tripping if you leaving, baby, I got more of you. Ain't talking money when you calling, I'm ignoring you. I'm unaffordable, and you would never see me sweat. Fofo Smith and Wesson, legendary, I'm a legend. All these diamonds in the best. Bitch, I'm flexing. Smoking pressure, that shit help with my aggression. I'ma always keep them guessing.